Hey everyone, and welcome back to SkillCapped's weekly Valorant news roundup. My name's Modix, and today we are going to be talking about a ton of new information coming straight from the lead character designer at Riot, Morello. He gave us his take on the brand new agent Killjoy, so if this is something that sounds interesting, then be sure to stay tuned. But before we get into any of that, I want to say that we upload a weekly news video every Sunday where we break down all the Valorant leaks and news that happened in the past week. So if you don't want to miss any of the new information surrounding the game, then be sure to subscribe with notifications on. Now let's jump right into the content. This week has been by far one of the craziest weeks since Valorant's official launch. This is mainly due to the accidental release of the new agent's abilities. On Monday, Killjoy officially got confirmed as the 12th agent coming to Valorant, and let's just say some people weren't the happiest. One of these players was Hiko, a professional player for 100 Thieves. On his stream, Hiko went on a pretty lengthy rant talking about how he disagreed with the direction Riot was taking with the game. It didn't take long for Morello to fire right back with his take on the whole situation.
Hiko's a good guy. I like him as a streamer. I like him as a pro, and I think he's generally a pretty smart guy. Once in a while, he says some really boneheaded shit, and I think his take on Killjoy is really boneheaded. Not that he's like, oh, I don't like it, or I think it's a problem. That's super fair if he has critiques or worries. The worries of putting a turret character in a game, especially that was before he saw the numbers and everything, that might have changed his mind, is this game is going to become Overwatch, is some fucking Scientology level conspiracy. Like shields and dedicated healers and all the stuff that's in Overwatch that makes Overwatch an action RPG shooter, not a tactical shooter, have nothing to do with Torbjorn. They have everything to do with Soldier 76 is pumping 500 damage a second into you, and you need somebody to stop that or everybody dies immediately. Our game is, when that happens, you die, and we're okay with that. So we don't want you to block the damage. We don't want you to stop the damage. We want you to fight these tools by going in carefully, using teamwork, smoking off the site, scouting, using your tools to take ground. If you walk into a site and there's a Killjoy turret there, and you don't clear your corners, you don't use utility, you don't do it, and she peeks off the turret, you're going to die. Just like if you run into an op. I think saying that if we add a turret, this game becomes Overwatch is really just doesn't make any sense to me. And I think it's really extrapolating, like, you know, it makes sense, but it makes sense that somebody could feel that way, but it doesn't make sense logically. It just doesn't make sense rationally, and it's not where we're taking the game. It's just not. Like, Killjoy's been in the game longer than Breach has. She's just coming out later. I think the release order is unfortunate, frankly, because I think it's bad optics.
So who do you think is right? Was it really that big of a deal for Hiko to share his strong dislike, or should he have just kept quiet and played the game? Let us know in the comments down below. I think that one of the reasons many players are skeptical of the new agent is because they don't know enough information yet. Many players are jumping straight to conclusions without even giving the agent a chance. Luckily, in Morello's past livestream, we got a ton more information on all the abilities and Killjoy as a whole. So to start, let's take a quick listen to what Morello had to say about the Alarm Bot and Nanoswarm abilities.
Hey Morello, can you shoot the Alarm Bot? Yes, you can, DxO. It's stealthed. So I'll tell you this. The Nanoswarm and the Alarm Bot are both stealth deployables. Stealth doesn't mean invisible. It works like Cypher's Trap. If you get close enough to it, it'll be visible, and then you can shoot it or interact with it. So that's how you can stop the post-plant Nanoswarm. And you can do that instead of getting hit by the debuff from the Alarm Bot as well.
To go along with this, he also said that Killjoy would receive one piece of utility for all of her abilities except for one. Luckily, we over here at SkillCapped put on our thinking caps and figured out that players will get 2 Nano Swarm Grenades. Now you might be wondering how we know this. Well, Morello said that the turret will not be one of the abilities that has 2, and then later on he also said that there would only be 1 Alarm Bot. So that leaves us with 2 Nano Swarm Bots, and it will be very interesting to see how players use this information for their defensive setups. We still have no more information on damage values for these abilities, but I'm sure we should be getting this information pretty soon. Now moving right along to Killjoy's third ability, we have the turret, which if you didn't know will have a unique name decided on by the community. Right now, this ability is one of the most controversial, so Morello really had to give more information on it to try to help calm the waves many players have created.
Queen Lulu, how does KJ's turret activate? Line of sight within a cone after a 0.75 second delay, so it has to kind of acquire and then start shooting. You can definitely sliver peek it. You can see it before it sees you if you're working like perfectly slow, and you can shoot it when it does that.
If you had any doubts before watching this, then hopefully this helped. But if not, you will just have to wait until release to see if you were right about the ability or not. Luckily, Valorant leaks on Twitter found the damage values that the turret will have, so let's take a quick look at that. So from 0 to 19 meters, the turret will deal 8 damage per bullet, which ends up being 24 damage per burst. Once this distance increases from the range of 20 to 34 meters, each bullet will do 6 damage, which results in 18 damage per burst. Then finally, from a range of 35 meters and up, the turret will do 12 damage per burst. Honestly, it doesn't look like the turret will be doing that much damage, so hopefully it will not be overpowered like many people are assuming. Now, for Killjoy's last piece of utility, let's talk about her ultimate. We're going to start by playing this video straight from Morello himself.
She puts it down, and it winds up over time, and it creates an area. That area, it takes a long time. That area doesn't do anything until the device activates, like, I think 13 seconds later. After that device activates 13 seconds later, all enemies in that large zone become detained, which is basically the closest thing we'll ever have in the game to a stun. Because we think you can avoid it, you can avoid it every time. We've never seen anybody get checkmated by this in a way where they couldn't have escaped. We've seen people make bad decisions and corner themselves in, or try to escape it and get shot, which is ideal, or just everybody runs away from it and they give the space up. Those are okay counterplay. Is a lot of the time Killjoy will put her ult down and just everybody will leave, and she'll buy some time on the clock, or they have to push it and try to kill it and before it goes off, right? So you have kind of a which choice do you want to make. Once it goes on, if it hits you, it's basically game over. Do not want to get hit by this thing. You should treat it as one of the most threatening things you could get hit by in the entire game.
Basically, you will have 8 seconds to try to destroy the ultimate before it activates and affect your team. Many were questioning whether or not the ultimate would affect your allies, and Morello went ahead and confirmed that your teammate should not feel the effects of the ult. Along with this information, he also shared that the size of the ultimate's area might be smaller than that seen in the videos because they used a past model in the trailer footage. It will be very interesting to see how players end up adapting to Killjoy being added into the game. Do you think that she will be overpowered at first? Let us know in the comments down below. One problem that the developers will have when it comes to Killjoy is making sure that she can stray away from Cypher's job of gaining intel. Here's what Morello had to say about this situation.
King Snare asks, what are the different roles of Cypher versus Killjoy? You said Sage is the premier staller. Great question, King. Cypher should be the ultimate map control sentinel, being able to watch if you're being flanked or hold down even multiple sites, not by actually locking them down, but by predicting and seeing the enemy's movements via his tools. Killjoy is about putting her stuff somewhere and then capitalizing on it for kills more sharply than Cypher. I do think, and this is something we're talking about on the design team, there's more overlap on them. There's more potential overlap on them than there is most of the characters, and any changes we would be looking to do, or our real, like, when we launch something, we kind of have like a list of what do we want to keep our eyes on when we launch it, what are our tuning levers we want to look at, and our key is to make sure that Cypher and Killjoy feel like they have some distance between them, and why you'd want to pick them and why you'd want to use them.
I'm sure that the devs will be able to solve this problem, but there are still a few more things that they are worried about when it comes to Killjoy.
Is KJ as good as Cypher when it comes to intel? Mekibeth, no. And if she ended up being, we would actually... That would be the first on my watch list when I look at Killjoy going out. The primary thing I'm going to keep my eye really close on is her intel capability. She'll need to have some intel, like local intel. I want her to need to be near her stuff, or whoever's playing off her stuff to be near it, primarily to get that intel. That might not always be true right now, and if so, that would be the direction. Making her weaker at intel than Cypher is critical.
At the end of the day, we will all just have to wait until the agent comes into the game to see how she affects it. I think that her release will make the Act 2 update a special one, but it won't be the only change coming. In the past few weeks, we have heard a ton of talk surrounding agent changes. These agents are mainly Sage, Breach, and Viper, but we have 2 new agents that might be seeing changes sooner than many expected. The new agents are Cypher and Reyna. Cypher is pretty self-explanatory because he does have such a high pick rate during tournament play, but Reyna is sorta out there. In the most recent NA tournament, Reyna didn't perform too hot, but this doesn't matter because Morello said that the dev team wanted to make Reyna easier to deal with in low elo without nerfing her for the higher elos. So they don't have an issue with her at the pro levels, it's only at the lower ones. For the Act 2 update, I'm sure that we will see a handful of agent changes, but none have been confirmed at the time of recording this video. And this information sums up all of Morello's latest livestream, but before we get into this week's leaks, I want to play this clip from Morello.
The concerns I tend to have are once the roster gets bigger, eventually we're going to have 5 of everything. We're going to have 5 Sentinels, 5 Controllers, 5 Duelists, 5 Initiators, right? Are those comps... If somebody wants to do that comp and do the 5 Sentinel, get defense first, try to choke them out, that's fine if it's a big risk. You know, let's say they failed to choke them out on that first half, and now it's a real uphill battle for them to do offense. Cool. That means it's not a reliable comp. It won't be the top meta comp, even if it's viable sometimes or a cool change-up. I'd want something, gimmick comps being the meta is something I'd worry about. Gimmick comps being viable ever is something I wouldn't be worried about.
This clip doesn't really apply to the near future, but this is a situation that might need to be considered in a year or so. Moving on, we have to talk about 2 leaks that are about features coming to the game really soon. When Anna Donlin first announced acts and episodes, she didn't really know where game modes would fall on the release timeline. Now we still don't know for sure, but there is a pretty big possibility that with the Act 2 update, we could get the option to play Valorant in a new way. If you have seen any of our past videos, then you know that we're talking about a deathmatch mode. But if you didn't, then now you know. They have been working on the game files for this new mode a ton recently, and this week we got a huge change. Now in the Valorant game mode section of the code, there's a folder named Deathmatch. There's no sign on when we might be seeing the game mode added, but like I said earlier, we wouldn't be surprised if it happened as soon as August 4th. Another feature that the developers have been working on is a replay system. And for our last leak, we have a few small additions into the game files. This week, we received the pause symbol along with the timeline and the timeline indicator. Like I said before, these are just small additions, but it does show that the developers are working towards getting this feature running. The big leak that happened this week was Killjoy's abilities being leaked. But we already released a whole video on that, so if you want to check it out, then it will be at the info card on the top right hand corner of your screen right now. If you never want to miss an upload like the Killjoy abilities video or the weekly news roundups, then be sure to subscribe with notifications on. That's going to wrap it up for this week's Valorant news. Thanks so much for watching all the way through this video. I'm Modix signing off, and I will see you all in the next one.